Thank you, Adam. Good evening, everybody. I'm Evan, for those of you who know me, and for those of you... Oh, we're off already. Oh, there we go. It's a pleasure. It is a pleasure, but it's a privilege and an honor to be here. And I'm very delighted to see so many people from the community. His Excellency, Ambassador Moed, really thrilled that you're here. It's very important. To the SJCC, Sarah and Pam and the tech group, thank you all for all your help in helping us in a very short period of time. And ladies and gentlemen, Yulie Reiter. So, Adam talked about my involvement in the exhibit, and all I want to say is I had the privilege and the honor to meet and interact with many survivors, bereaved family members, and hostages over the course of the last 8 months, and particularly in April through June, when the exhibit was running. I met them all. I had multiple conversations with them all. I listened to their testimonies multiple times, and they are now my Nova family. They are now a part of me. But with you, it was different. So last Friday, I went to CBB to meet Yulie. We'd never met before. And we talked for almost 3 hours straight. Jill, doctor, was with us. And I had not done that before with a survivor, with a bereaved family member. It was 10 minutes here, or a 20-minute conversation, or we're out at dinner, or after their testimony, or before their testimony. But I never sat with someone for almost 3 hours. And Yulie just shared everything with me. And it really hit me as I was driving home that, tomorrow is a year and 10 months. The anniversary tomorrow is August 7th. And I don't think what many people realize is how fresh this is. I spent 6 years of my life dealing with the March of the Living and Holocaust survivors who had decades to craft their stories and educate the world. And Nova survivors and bereaved family members and people like Yulie, they're still grieving. They're still in a war. They are still trying to find themselves. And yet Yulie has the courage to come here and talk to you all. And I actually think that's pretty miraculous, Yulie. So thank you again. So I want to go back to before October 7th. I think it's really important for people to know who Yulie is, who Yulie was before October 7th, for you to talk about your friends who you lost, I say lost at the Nova exhibit, who were murdered at the Nova exhibit, who were such an important part of your life. And I think that helps give us a glimpse of who you are. So why don't you talk a little bit about Yulie and before October 7th?
And I'll try to make it less than 2 hours, I promise. So, first of all, before I start and say this, I want to start by saying thank you so much. And it means the world to me to be able to be here. And before we're going to start and talk, it was really important for me to be able to say that, to be really honest with you guys, I am not a spokeswoman. I don't do this professionally. And the multiple times I already did that, it was way different than this. This is a very intimate conversation. I feel like I know most of you. I know your kids. I work with your kids. I know a bunch of you personally, so it's very, very different for me. So I don't know how it's gonna go. I might cry and I might need a few minutes, and I just wanna say that in advance. So if I'm gonna cry, it's gonna be okay. We're gonna work through this together. And moreover, English is not my first language, so it might take me some time to wrap my thoughts around what exactly I want to say. So just be patient with me. And I think that's it. We can start. So hi, my name is Yulie. I'm going to be 24 next week. I was born and raised in Tel Aviv, and right after I finished my military service, it's very common in Israel that once you finish your service, you go and have a trip. And I'm a surfer. I really like the ocean. This is my favorite thing in the world. My favorite color is also blue. The ocean is my safest place, so I knew this is what I want to pursue when I go travel. So I went to Central America for 6 months, and I've been to Panama, to Costa Rica, to those amazing places, and I plan to stay in Mexico. But then I met a deer. I met a deer 3 weeks before he was supposed to go home. A deer is the one in the middle, is also here and here and here. So we met in Mexico. He was supposed to come home a few weeks later, and I was supposed to stay. We met through common friends, as it's very Jewish. You probably know, everybody knows everyone. And we were introduced, and to be honest, something just clicked. Adir is a very a family and friends person. He's always around people. He has his few chosen ones that he always hangs around with. So I was introduced to him and his friends. And it not only clicked with him, it also clicked with his friends. So we spent a few weeks together in Mexico, and I fell in love. I told him, and before we went inside and started this conversation, that I feel the most difficult for me is going to be talking about the life before. So I fell in love with him, and I fell in love with his amazing friends. And after Adir got back to Israel, I lasted about a month or so, and I knew you can't pass on a love like this, and I have to come back, even though it meant changing my dream in some way. And as I got back to Israel, as I opened my front home gate, Adir was already waiting for me there, and we were just inseparable. That's how you say it? And we very naturally, without even trying that hard, we just started planning our lives together. So 3 days after I got back, I met those two incredible young men, Matan and Eli. Eli is the one most to the left. Eli was Adir's soulmate. They were the bestest of friends. All of them are living in Even Yehuda, which is a neighborhood next to the ocean, next to Netanya. Eli and Adir are I was always third wheeling them. Our dates were always planned around what Eli is doing at the moment. Eli is the funniest, most engaging person. He has so many friends from all around. I don't know how he got to know all of these people. Eli was working at the Shabak, which is how do you say that? The secretary?
Internal security.
Internal security, thank you, Ido. So he was working and doing this very important thing, but also it was this young, spirited person who really knew how to do very serious things, but also this very fun person. And there was Matan, this one. This is Matan, sorry. And Matan was like the smartest of the bunch. Like so smart and so kind. He was like the one who always asked me, how am I doing? And if I need help in doing like things I need to do for university. He was like this amazing, smart and kind friend, the one you can always rely on. And I got to know them 3 days after I got back. I bet you can imagine not being home for 6 months. So like the first few days when you are back home are very precious. They're like a lot of people you need to meet, a lot of friends, a lot of family. And like they were important enough for me to meet them like the first few days after I landed. And as me and Adir were inseparable, also me, Matan and Eli. They were neighbors, so like whenever I go to Adir's house, I would also like stop at Eli's house and we just like sat around and hang together. And they became very quickly, without even trying, my closest friends. As to me and Adir, we really wanted to get into university because like this is the age where you start to do those things. We wanted to study at the same University of Tel Aviv, very close to my house. Adir started working close to my house. He was like a bartender. He did the most horrific job of doing this. And he also opened his own jewelry brand. And all of us were just like starting our lives together. And a few months before October 7th, the rumors of the party started going around, like our friend group. I have never been to a festival like this before, but because all of us were at the beginning of our lives and all of us were doing things, it was one of those rare moments where all of your friends are free, so it doesn't really care where you go, you just like want to be together. And this was one of those opportunities. So once like the opportunity presented herself and they told me they were going to go to this party, I obviously said yes because I really, really wanted to be able to spend time with all of them. And then October 7th.
So, I know you could talk for hours about your life before because, you know, a lot of the survivors that I met, they said, everybody now looks at me like I'm a survivor, and they don't remember who I was before. And everybody in that community is working really hard to find themselves because they don't necessarily want to be defined as that. Yet their lives were inextricably changed on October 7th. And I've said this to a lot of the younger women survivors, and some of them have said it to me. Don't look at me as if I am Yulie or Danielle. And I look at you, and I see my 25-year-old daughter, Ariel. And I know that if she was in Israel, she would have been at the Nova Music Festival, 100%. This is a party 4,000 people from all over the world, 36 countries, Druze, Christian, Muslim. They just went to dance. And you had never been, but this was a great opportunity for you and your friends to go and party. So Yulie, tell us what happened.
So we went to the Nova Music Festival. We were 7 friends. 3 of them you know. Adir, my partner, Eli Nachman, Matan Eckstein. It was me. It was also Sela Magan, which is like one of their very close friends, also mine. They're like this group that grew up together. It was Sela. Sela brought his girlfriend, Romy. And Romy brought one of her friends, Yuval. So we were 7, me, Adir, Eli, Matan, Sela, Romy, and Yuval. The night of 6th of October, it was a holiday back in Israel. So we were having this like Shabbat dinner at Adir's house. It was a very special one. because of the holiday and because the people who were present. Straight after the dinner, Eli came and picked us up. It was a 1-hour drive to the southern part of Israel. As I told you, I'd never been to those music festivals before this. It was my first time, so I was really nervous. And I remember coming back inside and everything was so foreign, and I saw all those people dancing. It was like this massive event. I was a bit overwhelmed. I tried to dance for a bit, but then I decided I want to go back to the tent. We opened up a tent, and I decided I want to go there and rest until the sundown. Not sundown, sunset. Until the sunrise. Sorry, sundown, sunset, the same thing. Until the sunrise. The sunrise was supposed to be this amazing set of music, and everybody was really excited for it. I didn't know what they were talking about, but I'm gonna trust them, and I'm gonna wake up for this. As you probably know, there were no sunrise set. At sunrise, the siren started. So I was sleeping at the tent. Adir joined me a few hours prior to that. And we were sleeping together at the tent. And he very gently, because it's very like him to do so, he woke me up and he said, Yule, this was the way he used to call me, not Yulie, it was just say Yule. There are sirens, we need to get out of the tent. Very calmly. And we went outside of the tent to a total chaos outside, people running, and on the microphone they were telling us that the party is over, we need to go. We've waited to everybody to wrap around where we were staying, so everyone to come together. As we saw everyone is here and everyone is present, we left the party area to the parking lot. As we arrived there, a bunch of us were really scared, and a bunch of us was also very cool because this is not an unusual event in Israel. Adir leaned and whispered in my ear. Because of his military service, Adir served in Yalam Special Forces Unit, which means he used to work a lot with bombs and missiles. So he whispered to me and he said, I don't want to pressure you, but I want you to know that if something falls in the parking lot, we might explode. Yeah, sure, this is okay. So we decided very quickly to get up our stuff and leave the Nova party, and we went by 2 cars. So the first car was me, Adir, and Eli, and the second car, Matan was driving the car with Sela, Yuval, and Romi. I remember sitting in the back of the car and telling the boys, this is the time to go home. And I remember both of them looking over their shoulders and telling me and reminding me that we have only 15 seconds to go to a safe place, because this is how it goes in the southern part of Israel. Once the siren, the alarm goes off, you only have 15 seconds to get into a bomb shelter. So they were telling me, we're not going home, we're gonna go south, because they believed there were a lot of bomb shelters on that road, 232 road. Matan's car, they needed to drop off some of Romi's friends. Unfortunately, they also didn't survive. I don't want to tell their story because I feel like it's not mine to tell. But Matan dropped off 2 of Romi's friends in their car, so he was a little bit late and a little bit behind us. As we were driving around the 232 road, we were seeing a lot of bomb shelters packed with people. So Eli didn't stop the car, he kept driving around to see if he could find an empty one. Eventually he did. Only after we got off the car and went inside the bomb shelter, I could realize why it was empty. I don't know why you imagine when you imagine a bomb shelter, but those bomb shelters, in Israel we call them miguniot. It's a tiny structure. It's a square, it's a box with no windows, obviously, but also no doors, just an opening. Is it designed to protect you only from missiles and not from terrorists. So there's no door, just an opening, just like a long opening and then a box. And they usually put it on the sides of the roads near a bus station. So if you're like headed somewhere, that you can stop. So it's not this bomb shelter with a door designated to keep for long periods of time, only for short periods of time if you're caught off guard. So we went inside the bomb shelter, and it was packed with trash, so that why no one came inside besides of us. And we were waiting for a few minutes before Matan car arrived. And we were Eli parked the car straight outside of the bomb shelter, so when Matan arrived, he needed to park a few meters, after him. And when we heard Matan's car pulling up, we went outside the bomb shelter in intention of helping them inside the bomb shelter. But when we left the bomb shelter, we could see 40 meters from us a car with a shattered windshield and 2 injured people laying outside of the car. One was laying down, he was unconscious, and one was, I don't know if he was fully lucid because he had trouble phrasing words, and he was bleeding heavily. So we split. The girls, Yuval and Romy, Sela shouted at them to go back inside the migunit, the bomb shelter. And me and Eli were run into the one who was bleeding heavily, but also kind of lucid. And Sela and Adir and Matan went to the other person who was unconscious, laying next to a tree. It only took a few seconds, but for me, it felt like a lifetime because so many things have happened. The first thing that has happened is kind of ridiculous. I tried calling 911, and I don't know if you know, but in Israel, when you call 911, nobody answers. I did it because I feel like those are the type of things you see in the movies, and it took me a few seconds to realize that this is actually happening. It was around 7:04 when I placed the call to Magen David Adom, which is the equivalent to 911 in Israel. It took them 2 minutes to answer to the call, and in the span of 2 minutes, this is what was happening. So as I was placing the call, I ran with Eli to try to help and try to stop the bleeding. I tear up my shirt, as they teach you in the military, and I tried to stop the bleeding, but no matter what I did, it just didn't stop. Eli was trying to talk to him. To be honest, I had a tough time listening to him as well because I was on the phone and trying to hold off the bleeding. And at some point, another car stops by and an officer gets outside of the car because the military base is very close to where we were staying at. So he stopped and Adir ran straight up to him, asking him if he has a first aid kit. He said no. So I lift his hand up because usually in the army uniform you have a hole underneath your armpit, so just in case if something happens you can tear up the shirt and make a bandage out of it. And I remember my last rational thought was that he was very stupid because when he got his uniform tailored, he closed the hole. And I remember standing up with my hand up, holding up his hand and thinking that this is very dumb. And then we were shot at. And nobody ever shot at me before, prior to this event, so it took me a few seconds to realize what was happening. But I had very amazing good friends who realized what was happening as it was happening, and they tackled me to the ground, and they told me that this is a terrorist attack, and on 3 we are running for shelter. At this point, Magenta Vida Dome answered my call, and the call starts with me screaming, and you can hear the shooting in the background. And we ran for it, and we went inside the bomb shelter. Unfortunately, because Sela and Matan were a little bit behind us, it took them a few precious seconds more than us to get into the bomb shelter. And that's why the terrorists were able to make eye contact with them and seeing them coming inside the bomb shelter. In a few seconds, I don't know if it was even seconds, it was like a heartbeat of a decision. Straight after Sela was shot for the first time, they realized that if they're gonna stay there inside of the bomb shelter, the terrorists are gonna follow. And they decided to try to draw the fire away from us, and they just went outside and ran for it. Eight hours later, we discovered that Sela is okay. He was shot 4 times, but he survived. And now I know to say that Matan was murdered when he tried to draw the fire away from us. And it gave us a few extra minutes. In those minutes, we were trying and whisper to the representative of MADA and Magenta Vida Dome on our phone, try to explain where we were. We couldn't speak much because they were outside shooting at every passing car, screaming in Arabic, automatic guns being fired. So when we could, we whispered. But after a few minutes on the phone with her, we realized, she told us that there are few too many like us and that she doesn't know if they would be able to make it. So we realized we only have a few precious moments before they come inside the bomb shelter, as there is no door, no way to hold them off. So I was able to say goodbye to my parents. I told them I love them very much. And it's gonna be a few difficult years, but they're gonna be able to make it because they have each other. And I texted them. Adir also texted his family. Eli was not willing to say goodbye. He said there's no reason to because we're gonna make it. But me and Adir were able to say goodbye. I told him that I love him so much. He told me he loved me too. And him and Eli were shielding us with their bodies. They were facing their backs were facing the door, and they were sheltering us with their bodies. And Adir asked me to close my eyes. He said, I don't need to see this. And to be honest, I remember thinking, this is the only thing I can control. So I'm gonna close my eyes. I don't need to see them. And I remember Eli and Adir talking. They talked between each other, but I remember being so scared that I tried to comfort myself that this is not gonna hurt as bad as I think, and it's gonna be brief and it's gonna be okay. So I didn't really listen to what they were saying, and I regret this so much because they were talking about if someone comes inside, they're gonna push him out. If I would have known, if I would have realized, I would told him not to go. But I didn't. I was really, really scared. Eventually, after a few minutes, they did come inside. I remember hearing their footsteps coming inside of the bomb, inside the bomb shelters, and trying to close my eyes even harder. And I didn't realize until I felt a dear touch disconnect from mine that they left. And I remember opening my eyes and like seeing briefly Eli going up first and a deer straight after him, and like them pushing the tourist outside of the bomb shelter. And I remember screaming, but Romy covered my mouth so I don't make a sound. And I can say now, it took me a long time to be able to say this, but I heard what has happened. And Adir and Eli were murdered outside of the bomb shelter, and they didn't come back. At that time, I remember thinking that I know they're injured because I could hear them, but that it's gonna be okay. Adir and Eli and Matan were my safest place. They were my home. And I couldn't imagine something happening to them. I really like believed that Adir's gonna be okay. Like, if anyone's gonna survive this, it's gonna be him, and it's gonna be okay. And I remember like picturing exactly where is he hiding, and I believed it. I believed he was okay. He was injured, but all of us are gonna make it, and if not, he's gonna make it, and that's gonna be okay. Like, I'm not gonna make it, but he's gonna make it, and that's what's important. And I held into this image I had of him hiding, and it allowed me to stay there until 2:30 in the afternoon. Adir and Eli were murdered at 7:40 in the morning. And all of those hours I had my cell phone on me, and I texted everyone I knew trying to get help at the brief moments where we had some sort of silence. So they were coming back and forth, back and forth. It was a very busy like crossroad because it was very close to the military base and also very close to like the party. So they were going back and forth. And as I said, war raged outside, like RPGs and automatic like weapons and everything I could have imagined. And for some reason, all they had to do was turn their head back, because sometimes they use like the opening of the bomb shelter so they'll be able to shoot at the IDF without being like seen. All they needed to do was just turn their heads around and see us, but they didn't. And at around 2:33, a force of paratroops was standing outside of the bomb shelter, and they were talking in Hebrew. It was not the first time we heard someone talk in Hebrew. A lot of the terrorists also spoke in Hebrew. But I recognized the sentences they were like exchanging. They talked about this tactic I knew from my military service, and I just started crying. They heard my cries. They thought I was a terrorist. So they asked us to go outside of the bomb shelter with our hands raised. And Yuval, which was quiet the entire time, the entire like 8 hours, she didn't say a word. So she said, "I'm not coming outside, you guys come inside." And I remember they came inside with like the rifles pointed at us, and I thought, that's it. And I remember one soldier whispering to the other that there's 3 girls alive, and they couldn't believe it. It took them like half an hour to an hour to get the bus they were using to come pick us up. I remember asking if there's any injured people outside of the bomb shelter. They said yes. Romy asked if they could cover them while we go outside. They did, but once we got outside, they continued shooting at us, so we had to run. I didn't realize at that point that that was them. I don't know why, I just couldn't comprehend it. If I did, I really want to believe I would take them with me. And the paratroops couldn't get us to a safe place, so we were riding around the Gaza envelope for a few more hours. They needed to fight in all of the kibbutzes and all of the communities around because they were packed with terrorists. And only because Eli's commander called one of the officers on the bus, eventually after a few, 4 hours, they were able to take us to a gas station from which Eli's commander met up with us. They needed to interrogate us because they were really afraid he was kidnapped. So they interrogated us, and then they drove us to my dad, who was waiting at the army gates where they allowed people to come inside. And it was around 7 or 8 o'clock.
About 3,500 survived. And we use that number collectively, just like we do with the Holocaust. We say 6 million Jews died, 411 people were murdered at the Nova Festival. But I don't say that anymore. One person died 411 times. Just like one Jew died 6 million times in the Holocaust. We can't look at them as a collective. They all have their own individual stories. They all live their own individual lives. And the same with the survivors. And I've learned that over the course of the last several months. And now you've heard one story from Yulie. And it is it's just part of the story. I wish we had more time. Let me fill in a couple of gaps, and then I want to talk a little bit about your healing journey, if that's what we call it. So Yulie got home, and Yulie went and spent the next couple of weeks with Adir's family. And then the definition of resilience, or Israeli, because they're both sort of the same, Israelis are resilient. What does Yulie do? Yulie goes on reserve. How long were you on reserve for, Yulie?
I'm embarrassed when you say it like this.
It's not embarrassing, it's a badge of honor.
So to be honest, I don't know if it was an act of resilience, but just it was what I knew, because I was at the military for 2.5, almost 3 years. So this is what I knew. This is what you do when there's war. So I don't know if it was resilience or bravery. It was just this is what you're supposed to be doing. So I joined my reserve, and I've served where Adir was serving. It was 600 meters from the bomb shelter. And I served for 7 months.
So after all of this, after losing some of the closest people in her life, she was able to find something inside of her to pick herself up and go on reserve, which means that she never really had the time to think about what happened. And I think a year and 10 months later, it's an ongoing saga. And what I've learned is everybody's healing journey is different. And people like Yulie, and people like the survivor delegates and the bereaved family members who came to the exhibit, I don't like to use this term, they are the cream of the crop. Because the majority of survivors and bereaved family members suffer in silence. They are still in their homes. They are not working. They are going to therapy, like I'm sure Yulie is going to therapy, because it's a very important part of healing. But let's talk a little bit about your healing process. In a million years, I'm willing to bet you never thought you would be head of CITs at a Jewish summer camp in Ottawa, Canada. And lo and behold, this summer, CBB had the privilege to have Yulie come. And I know that you already had a friend there, and a friend sitting right there, the ugly guy with the hat right there. But I'm not going to tell that story. Why don't you just talk a couple of minutes about CBB? Talk about how did you get there? Talk about what CBB has been as part of your healing journey. And I think you made a comment to me outside of a couple of things. This is the first job that Yulie's had since October 7th. So Yulie, why don't you talk about CBB and your journey as you move forward?
To my choice of going to reserve, I feel like, and it's gonna sound very hopeful, but when you lose someone, you need to make a decision of what of their personality traits you used to love so much, what stays. And I had such an amazing luck getting to know those bunch of people and experiencing so much love at such a young age. And I really wanted a part of them to still be here. And what I take from them, what I loved about them, is how much positive, amazing group of people they were, and how much they light up every room they would go into, and how much love we had for each other, how much love they had for one another, how much they enjoyed living life, enjoying the little things like sunsets and surfing and ocean and friendship and good food. And it took me a while. It's not even final, but it took me a while to realize that I'll have to be able to live after this has happened, and I'll have to be able to live without them. And I really wanted to make a decision to include them and to carry a part of them with me. So joining the reserve was something that was very fitting to them, but also coming to CBB. Eli also was a counselor at a Jewish camp in the US. And when me and Evan talked about CBB, we talked about this as a bubble. Camp is a bubble of an endless summer and endless happiness and like kids running around. And something that is very like, in the core of it, at the base of summer camp, is something very hopeful. And I really wanted to be able to see if I'm still capable of taking part in those type of experiences, if I'm still able like to enjoy something that is very like positive and about life. And I just wanted to see for myself if it's something like this still exists after this. And I also really wanted to be in a place that reminds me of some sort. It's crazy to say that because it's like a million miles away, but reminds me of them. And when I think about them, I don't think about the way they died, I think about the way they lived, and I think about all of our good memories and all about like summers we shared together in Mexico and like all of those amazing experiences I had with them and all of those love. And I feel like I found a part of it at CBB, and it was a really, Jill knows, it was a really tough call for me to come here because I didn't know, I couldn't like promise Jill I would be able to function and I would be able to do good. I really wanted to, but I didn't know. Like, I have good days and I have bad days, and I needed to finish my reserve because I started wetting the bed at 23 years old, and I have all of this grief that I never want to get rid of, because it's, all of this love, unprofessed love, that I need to keep very close to my heart, and the grief is never going to be done. But there's a lot of things, as Evan said, like a lot of silent things you need to be able to go through. I got diagnosed with PTSD a year ago. So it was straight after I finished my reserve, and that I really want to get rid of. And I feel like CBB was a part of me being able to see if I'm able to make it, if I can be in this environment that is a bubble of all the things that are good and positive in life, if I'm able to participate, if I'm able to take part.
Well, I think you've answered that question. I know Jill has answered it for me, Adam answered it for me, that you are an undeniable part of the CBB family, and you are loved tremendously. And if CBB can take some part of helping you and being part of your healing journey and letting you know that it's okay to be happy again, and it's okay to grieve at the same time. And that you mentioned something to me when we were speaking. You said, I'm a Nova survivor. I will always be a Nova survivor. It doesn't necessarily define exactly who I am, but it's a part of who you are now. And it's something that you carry as a badge of grief and love and honor. And as Adam said, you've chosen to not be a spokesperson, but to have the courage to tell your story, and more importantly, to be the voice of Adir and Eli and Matan, who can tell their story. And I'm sure that Romy, Yuval, and Stella, you're all very close, continue to be, and continue to support each other. I want to ask you one last question, and it's maybe a bit cliche, maybe it's not fair, but if you had one message, one final thought, one word of wisdom that you want to leave with the people here tonight, what would that be?
I'm sorry if it might be a disappointment, but I feel like I don't have a message to give. As I said, I didn't want to be here. This is not how I envisioned my life, to say the least. When I talk, sometimes it can be this very positive thing, but it also can be very dark. It depends if I woke up, or what side of bed did I wake up this morning. There are bad days, there are good days. So I don't have a message, I don't have a clear thing to say, to be honest. Tomorrow is the anniversary, 1 year and 10 months after everything that has happened, and everything is still so fresh. And I don't really know. The one thing that is very, very important to me is, one of my friends asked me this amazing question, where she asked me what is one thing I can always give from and will never run out of. And I remember envisioning this candle inside of me that is lit. Sometimes it's very hard to keep it lit, but it's the fire within me is the fire of the people that I love and the memories I have, and it's the light of Adir and Eli and Matan. And when you light up a candle with another candle, it doesn't diminish the flame. And I really wish if just one thing you would be able to take from this conversation is them, and the memory of them. And I know it's a difficult task to ask because you don't know them, but it would mean the world for me. so they will be remembered. And if I can light a tiny candle inside of you that like will cherish their memory, means the world to me. So I think this is my message, if possible.